Call and Response 10 Leadership Lessons from the Black Church is a captivating exploration of how the Black Church has served as a timeless wellspring of leadership development, empowerment, and cultural preservation. The book will weave together findings from research of the impact of the Black Church on Black leaders' development, personal narratives from the author's life, stories and voices of high-ranking Black leaders in the Fortune 500, and scientific evidence from neuroscience and positive psychology to create a comprehensive guide for any leader seeking to develop their skills while exploring and embracing their culture and history of Black leaders in America. Call and Response is from the award-winning, best-selling business leadership author, L. Michelle Smith, whose mission as an evidence-based certified executive and personal coach is to empower leaders at the intersection of science and culture to reach and have a sustaining impact in the C-suite. Coming soon. Visit lmichellesmith.com or follow L. Michelle on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube for more updates.
Join SOAR Academy, our all-in-one learning platform with assessments, live, recorded, and hybrid masterclasses and courses, and a vibrant community of like-minded leaders seeking the E and C suite. Join now and receive a free leadership tool. Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode, we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. Hey everybody, I am so excited today because I have a special guest with me. If you go back some time, let's say about 8, 9, maybe 10 years. I think it's been 10 years. I remember being a part of the ELC's mid-level management symposium. I myself was at AT&T at the time, and I was already a fellow in that organization. And I was there, and I will remember clearly. There was a woman that came out who hosted, and she came out to James Brown, and the whole place was just going crazy. I'm Black and I'm proud. Boy, we were so excited about that. But Leilani Brown was not just a host, but she was someone who poured into people. And what I learned was she stayed connected with a lot of folks from those rooms where she was actually hosting. I'm one of them. And while we just stayed in touch over social media, Leilani and I have become friends over time. And I've learned more about her business. And her focus is on college students primarily, although she does talk to some early to mid-career folks. Her company is called Giant Steps, LLC. They recently rebranded, and she is, like the Pied Piper, if you will, of careers when it comes to folks who are just graduating from school and those that are just starting out. Leilani, let's bring her on.
Hi. I remember those moments. That was a lot of fun.
Yes. I am so proud of you to see where you've taken your business. How long have you been in business at this point?
Thank you. We've been in business for 4 years. We just celebrated our 4th year. Very grateful, very excited about the growth and what has happened over that time. And while we are obsessed, if you will, and really passionate about connecting young people to opportunities, we've been excited about moving into other areas, mid-career, some executive coaching at the C-suite level, working with organizations around talent, working with boards around governance. So I'm just really happy and grateful and satisfied, working hard as you are. I admire what you're doing, and congratulations to you too.
Thank you
but
so
just
much.
trying to keep pace with it.
Yeah. And recently you got on a plane and went halfway around the world.
I did, with a month's notice. And I was on the ground in Kenya for 4 days. So it was incredible. Second time on the continent, but I would jump at an opportunity to go to the continents. I went to Ghana first, and now I went to Kenya. I was invited to participate in this conference called the One Girl Can Conference.
Mm.
And I learned from her conference, excuse me, sponsored by One Girl Can, an organization that's been around for a while in Kenya. And there were going to be 150, it was the first time I had the conference for the graduates, 150 Kenyan women who've graduated from university and are either in their first jobs or seeking their first jobs. So, what a unique opportunity to bring this work and meet the moment and deliver my passion as the closing keynote speaker for the event. And then the following day, we had the opportunity to see the younger girls at
Mhm.
the Usharika School in Kibera,
Wow.
and just had such a time visiting the schools in one of the settlement communities and keeping in touch with them. So big shout out if they're listening to this all the way in Kenya.
Yeah.
I've missed you guys already. It was
That's so
wonderful.
awesome. What an amazing blessing.
It
Did it
was.
give you
It
a
was a
different
blessing to
perspective?
me. Yeah, I mean, I think when we do our work with schools, and we do a fair amount of work with leadership and strategic planning for schools, K through 12 schools, I always tell people that's our favorite kind of strategy work, because when you walk into a school building, if you don't get excited or a little bit giddy about hearing school children, you're not in the right place.
Right.
And I would just say that that cacophony of childlike sounds, student sounds, is the same here in a very Tony independent school and the same in Kenya. And so
Mhm,
you get excited about that. But
mhm.
what I also learned is I relearned and reaffirmed what schools are for young people, and this extends to college. Yes, it's about the instruction, but it's also about the scaffolding of support that all young people need, that we all really need. It's about community, it's about friendship. Sometimes it's about food, it's about sustenance, sometimes it's about housing, and the responsibility and the opportunity that schools have towards young people. So I was just struck by the similarity, even given the vast difference in resources. But so it was great, and I also fed a giraffe out of my hand.
That's right. I saw a picture.
Yes,
That
yes.
was amazing.
I'm not an animal hater, but I'm not an animal lover.
Yeah.
And I'm a very, as I self-proclaimed indoor enthusiast.
Hey, I
So
feel you
this was
there.
very different for me to be on safari and to feed a giraffe and, visit the baby elephant orphanage. But I just kind of leaned into it and
Oh,
just was like, you know what? Something new, something different. Went in
yes.
Kenya, you know,
I'm gonna
be
say,
on
if you're on a
safari.
continent and a
You
giraffe
can't.
looks hungry and you have something to feed him with, do it.
Exactly, exactly. So it was safe, and it was, there was water to wash my hands afterwards. So it was good.
I know that's right.
They were hungry.
Where's my Purell?
Exactly,
Exactly.
exactly.
Hey, Leilani, what do you say we have a culture soup moment?
Let's have a culture soup moment. Let's
Excellent.
talk about it.
All right. So I've been looking at social media and I stay plugged in online. These days I kind of want to protect myself and keep my peace. But one of the things that I
As you
see
should.
that I stay aware of is what the job market is doing. And of course, we saw that horrible number that's impacted a lot of my clients. That
Mhm.
300,000 Black women were, pushed out of the job market within three
Right.
months. But what
Mhm.
people really aren't talking about as much is what college kids are facing coming into this
Yeah,
market.
yeah,
It's bad enough for people mid-career and all the way up, but if you're coming in and you're a junior and a senior and you're just looking at what's going on with maybe your comrades that just finished and they're having a hard time landing a position, how do you not be discouraged? What do you have to
yeah,
say about what's going on and what these students should be thinking about?
yeah. I mean, I think the first and most responsible thing that we can all do is acknowledge that it's real. Let's not gaslight young people as they're graduating from university or college into thinking that it's not that bad. It is pretty bad, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty challenging. I won't say bad as a shortcut. It's pretty challenging. I definitely, you can look at the numbers, but really what concerns me is that the eagerness to get started and the obstacles that young people might face. And so I
Mhm.
just want to acknowledge that it is tough, it is challenging, but in my opinion, it's not insurmountable.
Yeah.
And but it also it just might not be what you think. It
Mm.
just might not be so easy. It might not be as smooth. And it you may have to take a job just to get to the point. You may find yourself taking a job at the beginning of your career that is not the job that you want. It is does not line up with what you studied or your so-called major, and it just may be disappointing. But let's just use that as an opportunity to earn and learn. It is
Yeah.
a first job, it's not the last job.
Mhm.
And so if there's anyone listening that finds themselves or they have a young person in their life that is looking for a job, take that first job.
Mhm.
It's not the end of the world. This is a period of time. Things will change and shift, and we can talk about how you need to change and shift along with it. But it's challenging, but it's not insurmountable. And my best advice is to reframe it and just say, okay, it's an opportunity to earn and learn and take that first role.
I feel like, we're Gen X here. We can keep it real. Um,
Hmm.
when I was finishing college, and this is before the internet was really a big thing where you could actually search for a job. We were looking
Hmm.
at wanted ads in the newspaper. I remember doing that
Hmm.
myself. But I also remember that as much as I wanted something in my major, I was open to other things just to get the job. I feel like we're back
Yeah.
there. But this group of young adults, and I've been a professor on campus at TCU, and I was with classes that came through the pandemic. In fact, we went on lockdown together. And I remember
Hmm.
seeing their eyes, as much as they were young adults, they looked like babies at that point because they didn't know what was going to happen next. But we were
Hmm.
just rolling with it. But they seem to be far more focused when it comes to landing that job that I went to school for. What advice might you give someone that's been very, very focused and laser on why they're in school and what they're getting a job for to be more flexible for what
Yeah.
might be out there?
Listen, I think the answer is yes, and be really focused, have a passion, really lock in. But just know that it might not work out that way in the first job or in the
Mhm,
first 6 months to put a time frame on it, or a year or 2 years. But you can still be really, really focused. You can
mhm,
still really be cultivating your interest and your experience in that particular discipline while you do something else.
mhm,
I know people who want to pursue a career in film, for example. And so while they are looking for a job in film, and the early jobs in film don't pay, and they're not necessarily consistent, but they're really interested in it. They find a
yeah,
way to work in that field and study that field and almost apprentice in that field while they have another job to pay their bills. And for many of us, particularly students of color and those who are first gen, who come out with student debt and have a need to pay back that student debt, you want to get started and be obsessed with paying off that student debt. Interest rates on student loans have gone up as high as 12%.
mhm,
And so it can be particularly a hobbled start if you're not getting started. So I would say yes, and
yeah,
cultivate and pursue that role that you really, really want. Demonstrate that you have paid attention and you're still practicing in it, because eventually something may materialize. But in the meantime, yes, and do that and the other job that is a perfectly fine job and fine place to start, and get yourself started. The other thing is, I would say, about working in a role or in a job or in a company that you don't necessarily love. And I started that way.
mhm,
It's not the end of the world.
right.
There are other things that you can learn. There are other things you can learn. I started my career in insurance sales, and I didn't want to be in insurance sales. I can't, please show me a person, introduce a person that grew up dreaming of being an insurance salesperson. But,
Probably someone who had a family business or something, but even then,
yeah.
they didn't really just
And it was
want
it was
to.
commercial insurance, right?
Right.
But what I would say is that what it taught me, helped me develop resilience, because you
Mhm,
get more no's than yeses. Being a salesperson improves your communication skills. You learn how to be a better listener. You observe. You actually maximize your curiosity because you have to figure things out. You are a planner, a better planner if you're a salesperson. So many skills that served me throughout my career, served me ultimately as I rose through the ranks and became a chief marketing officer, and served me now as an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
I would say the role that we are naively dismissing, and I thank goodness I've grown since I was 21, right? Thank
Yeah.
goodness. Uh, that those early roles, they can teach you a lot of things. They may not be in what you want to do. And thirdly, I would add, sometimes the things that we think we want, we know we want them, but sometimes not getting them is the best thing that never happens to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell this story all the time. I applied to 8 law schools when I was graduating from college, and I was applying to law school because my mother encouraged me to do so. God bless her. Please don't get mad at me for telling this story, mommy. But she said, "You should go to law school. I've never met an unemployed lawyer."
Mm,
And so that was the guidance. That was a level of guidance that I had. I didn't necessarily want to go to law school.
yeah.
Perhaps that showed in my applications, right? And I applied to 8 law schools and I didn't get in.
Hmm.
But guess what? It was the best thing that never happened to me or for
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
And I survived it and really had a quite a good successful career to now.
Well, and you pointed out something along the way as you were telling these stories and also giving that advice. You were learning lessons along the way. And I
Mhm,
remember my
mhm.
father telling me, even when I was in roles that, didn't exactly float my boat, he said, collect the tools and you will always have the skills.
That's right.
So, and you
That's right.
never know when you're going to have to go into that, bag of skills and pull one out or pull out a tool.
That's right.
And I'm sure that even as you were applying to law schools, you were refining some skill in
Absolutely.
applying. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm sure I could, if I really wanted it, I could have reapplied and probably gotten in, you know. But you develop some tools. And again, it's resilience, perspective. Those things are we don't talk about that enough. Having the
Yeah.
perspective that it's not the end of the world, having the resilience to fail. A lot of people have gone through schools, gone to great schools, and have never failed, have
Yeah.
never fallen squarely on their bottoms and
Yeah.
had to get back up. There's so much value in that.
Well, and that's the catch 22, right? We're in a society that says, and especially students, they're hearing that they need to make A's. They need to be perfect in order for these other entities, whether they're jobs or even internships. I have a little cousin that just started with Alvin Ailey in a 3-year internship, and she
Hmm.
had to figure out that it was okay, even on her first day, not to know what to do. I tell my daughter this
Yes.
too, and she's
You're not
13.
supposed to.
We're supposed to teach you.
Yes. At every level, you're being hired in many ways for your potential.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I coach young people to do is admit that you don't know. Don't
Hmm.
don't don't pretend that you know everything because no one knows everything and you're there for what you do know and also your potential to contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is a really good place to shift and talk more about mindset because so many of these young people, uh, they are not only feeling the anxiety, but they've got these parents that are pushing
Yeah.
and saying, you must, you must, you must. In other words, once you get that degree, and these may be well off families, once you get that
Mhm.
degree and you get their job, we're cutting off this, this, and this. So you better land
Yeah.
the right kind of job. So there's all this pressure that's happening with them. What kind of mindset should these young people try to adopt? Because look, I'm looking at stats here. 73% of students believe their major is very useful, yet more than half also express anxiety about AI automation and displacement. So there's anxiety coming from the parents. They have their own
Mhm.
anxiety, and now they're facing this other thing that's out there that's causing the anxiety. Let's talk about mindset. How do you
Yeah.
shift out of this narrative that just has you scared.
Yeah.
Scared.
I would say two words come to mind. And that you ask a really good question. Curiosity, right? Curiosity about the world, curiosity about trends, curiosity about the industry that you say that you are interested in working in, um, curiosity about yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at. I think that curiosity can serve you during this time of transition and during this time of job seeking, during this economic downturn. There's so much to learn and to try to be curious and continue the lifelong learning. Because you finish school, you're not finished with learning. So that's one. The other thing is agility. I'm not talking about flexibility, right? Because
Mhm,
that's sort of flexible within some guardrails. But how agile are you?
mhm.
How agile can you shift from, in my case, and I'm proud of this, the insurance industry to education, to ed technology, to entrepreneurship?
Mhm.
And how are you leveraging the curiosity in your lifelong learning to be agile, you know, and
Yeah.
being open, right? Being open. So moving out of this fixed mindset that I went to school for this and I'm going to do that. Because guess what? If you went to school for accounting and you graduated with the accounting degree, and the nature of accountants, I'm not saying accountants are going away by way of AI, but the nature of accounting is going to change, right? Then the question is, how are you going to change with it? How are
Yeah.
you going to be agile to leverage those tools to go along with it? I know people who are writers, who are editors, who want to go into publishing. Publishing has been completely upended.
Mhm.
But how are you using AI to make sure that you are still humanizing, for example, content, still participating in it? You're still going to need people to prompt. You're still going to need human interaction to be able to determine whether or not generative AI is hallucinating and give you the wrong information. You're still so the more you use it, by the way, the better you are at it.
Yes.
You know. So to me, curiosity and agility are mindset shifts that people need to make.
It just seems that reframing discouragement and disappointment is really the key here, because I'm seeing a stat too that says that like 50% of graduates that are landing jobs end up underemployed. So let's say
I
you
I
find the
just
job you want, but it's not full time, or it's just contract work, or and
yeah,
that feeds the discouragement too. What word do you have for these kinds?
I want to reframe that. I
Okay.
want to reframe underemployed because you're working in a job that doesn't require a college degree.
Ah,
I want to challenge that.
okay.
Okay. So um, there's a gentleman out there, I followed his work over the last probably 6 or 7 years. His name is Byron August. And I
Mhm.
think he talks about this, and other people talk about this, that this this idea that certain white collar jobs, let's just stereotype and shortcut it, are great jobs because they require a college degree.
Mm,
What I would say to you is that if you go back and you look at history and you look at employment, those were obstacle courses set up to prevent certain people from going into certain jobs.
right.
If you examined and looked at the job descriptions, many of them posted, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but many of them posted the functions and the skills don't necessarily require a college degree.
Mhm.
But we put it in there. We create these job descriptions, which are a kitchen soup, a kitchen sink version of, of skills and wish lists that we might want, but it's not even required.
Mhm.
You and I are probably in the last generation where you had people who were quietly operating on the same level as you and I without college degrees.
Mhm.
I know this to be the case. You
Mhm.
had people who were very senior executives. They didn't have the pressure of a bio. No one needed to know necessarily that they were at the same level without a college degree.
Yeah.
Okay. So I say all of that because I think no matter whether you went to college or straight from high school to the workforce, I do believe, and this is very American, this is very United States centric, but I do believe we have some work to do to destigmatize the high school to workforce pathway.
True. Very true.
Okay. So let's just start there that we are, when we talk about underemployed, we are operating within our own set of contrived biases that have been fed to
Hmm.
us about value, about intelligence, about capability and skill. Okay.
Yeah.
We are buying into it. So if you, and I apologize for this being so nuanced, but I
No,
get
you're
so
good. This is great.
passionate about it. So if we say, okay, that is, you know, a bag of untruth that we've been fed, then we can also see value in the experience of going into a job that pays well.
Hmm.
Maybe you're in that job and your colleagues don't have a degree and you have a degree, but it's not even required, but you're getting certifications on top of certifications so that you are constantly learning and passing through.
Hmm.
And, does that job have no value?
Of
Does
course not.
that mean you're underemployed? I would argue that the person that goes straight from high school to career, doesn't have any student debt, is earning while they learn,
Hmm.
and is stacking certificates in coding and whatever,
Right.
is has a running start ahead of the person that was necessarily in college. Now, and I serve on the board of a college.
Hmm.
I'm not the person to tell you that you don't need a college degree.
Sure, sure, sure.
I'm a mother of a college graduate, so proud of him. I believe in college, but it's just not the only way. So
Exactly.
that's all a foundational part of a conversation that I want us to really think about when we talk about being underemployed just
Mhm.
because a young person graduates from college and goes into a job that doesn't require a college degree.
Right, 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 right. That's a really good perspective because when I first thought of the term, my mind went to maybe you're not working a full-time job like you want to. Maybe you're working
Hmm.
a part-time job, or maybe it's contract, or maybe it's a more junior level. My mind did not go to,
Yeah.
degree or undegreed. And that's an excellent point.
And well, here's another thing.
Hmm.
So you think about people like you and I,
Hmm.
we are, I don't know how old you are. I'm 54.
I'm 54.
And okay, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
So
You too.
we are actually working in the way that a millennial might work, which
Yeah.
is a portfolio approach
Mhm,
to career,
mhm.
right? And that may be the way Gen Z has to operate, right? With a
Well,
portfolio approach to career.
yeah, a
And
lot of these
so
companies are moving that way. Eventually, they're
that's
gonna
right.
start to get rid of benefits, you know?
That's right. We've been talking about the gig economy for 10 years
Yes.
and values of freelancers.
Mhm.
I have people in my company that work for me virtually here in the United States, but I'm gonna brag and flex a little bit. I got people all over the world.
Absolutely.
I have designers and artists in the Philippines. I've worked with people on the continent, all in Spain. In fact, our graphic designer is in Spain right now.
Yeah.
And so as you get older, we celebrate this idea of a portfolio approach. Oh, I'm a consultant, I'm this and that. But for a young person coming out, we don't do the same because we have a fixed mindset about what it means to work. Now,
Absolutely.
I know we're all craving the stability, the normal, sort of cadence. You go to
Well, I
work
would
with,
challenge
but
those
what's
words
stable?
too.
Yeah, what's stable anymore? What's
Yeah.
stable anymore?
Well,
So
the
this
word
has been a
stable,
major
I mean, let's
disruption.
think about it. Let's really dig into that. I understand the 9 to 5, and I talk about this in my first book, No Thanks, where, especially culturally, we had parents who pretty much told us, you
Yes.
want to go to school, get the paper, get the 9 to 5, get with the benefits, right? So you
Yeah.
get that good job, right? And and
Right.
and, and you get the 401k or the pension or whatever it is, and that's considered stable. When the reality is, if you're doing business the right way, you can get a raise whenever you want. You can get
and
paid more
you
frequently.
can control, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody,
No,
and
it's
I don't
not.
want to glamorize it. It's hard,
It is.
but just there these notions, these fixed notions that we have about labor and workforce
Right.
are gone.
Yeah.
You know, the little axiom of you better not lose that good government job.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good government job. I mean, I've taken an apartment in the district, and I will tell you that the ripple effects
Oh, yeah.
of the unemployment or underemployment, the dispossession
Yeah.
of federal workers,
The
it's
push
not
out,
just
the
about the
grand push out.
individual. It's not just about the individual,
Yeah.
right? It impacts housing, it impacts
Mhm.
retail, commerce, and everything. I know a lot of people here have said, "Hey, let's get together for brunch." People are not going to brunch,
Right.
Michelle.
They're
They're
holding
not
on to
going to
their
brunch.
dollars as they should
You
be.
know, you started off the conversation with 300,000 Black women. I think it's growing, actually.
Mhm.
I heard a number closer to four.
Wow.
But the purchasing power, what happens to that purchasing? But so we're all in it together. But I do think that we need to rethink these and stop holding on to these old notions of what it means to work,
Mhm.
and give people who are just graduating in, who are figuring it out, a little bit more grace. And I dispense with this caution, this ominous tone that you're going to be underemployed, as if that's a bad thing.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Skills. How should they be
yeah.
thinking of the kinds of skills they need to have in order to align with what these organizations or hiring entities, I should say, are
Mhm.
looking for when it comes to being a transformational leader? And by the way, you can be a leader right out of college,
Wherever you
right?
are.
Doesn't have
Yeah,
to be the C suite. You can be a leader. How do you go into these positions, aligning yourself with the new digital transformation that's happening?
yeah.
If you're an accountant, is it wise to be thinking how to use AI as an accountant, as a thought partner to enrich and make yourself even more marketable? What should they be thinking about right now?
I mean, I think around the technical skills, you should know your work,
Yeah.
right? If you're an accountant, you need to learn how to be the best accountant. If you're a graphic designer, learn how to be the best of that. uh, and so on around the technical skills.
Hmm.
But you should also understand the implications of AI on your business and the way that your industry works and
Hmm.
operates, and not only where it is right now, but where it's going. So you should understand end to end how AI is affecting, and I'll stick with accounting, how it's affecting small businesses, medium enterprises, and large businesses. And you should be able to not predict, but perhaps track where the experts are tracking it's going.
Hmm.
You should be really curious about it. We can't afford to be uh, afraid of it. We can't afford to not touch it because we're like, we don't want, we
Hmm.
don't know where else it's going. We need to understand the workforce impacts, etc. So that's on the technical skills. Know your stuff, be expert at it, or endeavor to be an expert and develop some level of expertise, and then surround that with curiosity around AI,
Hmm.
around geopolitical matters,
Hmm.
around people's attitudes around certain things. I think pop culture and social behaviors and norms also are relevant. Be curious,
Absolutely.
and do
That's
that.
the name
So
of the
that's
show.
right. Like, I think it's all relevant.
Hmm.
You can learn a lot by observing and watching people. I'm not saying doom scrolling, but I'm saying, like, watch what's really happening in and what the conversation is. So
Yeah.
watch the zeitgeist, right? So that's technical skills. But I still firmly believe, and I sometimes I just scratch my head. I can't believe the first book that I wrote is still selling. But I still firmly believe that there are a set of professional, essential behavioral skills that will take you further than
Hmm.
your technical skills will.
Yeah.
And that is because relationships matter and people do business with people they like.
Yes. Absolutely.
And when you have solid relationships, wonderful relationships where people trust you, where they will really like you, because likability is a factor,
Mm-hmm.
then they will give you the benefit of the doubt and
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of a grace or a greater time to get up that learning curve on the technical skills.
Right.
But technical skills alone will not carry you. You need to have technical skills and you need to have professional skills or behavioral
Mm-hmm.
skills. And the skills that you have and you develop on campus are not necessarily the skills that are going to take you far. When I talk to large campuses or campus-wide events, I said there are really three things that you need.
Mm-hmm.
There's three elements. You need experience, okay, because there's no substitute for experience. You need actually accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
You need to say you've done something as opposed to just being there. What did you contribute? And you need relationships because relationships matter and relationships drive activity and opportunity, and because people do business with
It's
people
currency.
they like. It
Right.
is currency.
Mm-hmm.
And so experience, accomplishments, and relationships. And if you have all three together, that's a powerful combination to create optionality in your career. If you have two, you'll do fine.
Mm-hmm.
You'll do fine. But if I had to pick up one that was most important, it'd be a pretty crooked stool. It'd be really, really on relationships.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Because when you really think about it, even folks that are in realms that are not, you know, privileged, let's just say,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
how they get around
Right.
the relationship.
Right. Right. I know a person. Let me make a phone call. Let me introduce you. And actually, I have to say, you should be putting relationships and human-centered content and contact and high touch into
Yes.
your search process.
Yes.
If you are only relying on uh,
The
applying to
bots.
jobs online,
Yes. I call them the
right?
bots.
You are among thousands for job opportunities because the barrier to apply is so low.
Yeah. And you'll be
It's
sitting
so
there a
low,
while if you do that. I
if
always
not
tell my
forever,
clients, you've
if
got to
not
make
forever.
some human
Right.
contact. They've
But if you apply
Mhm.
and then you do some research and then you determine on LinkedIn or wherever, and you determine that El Michelle has a relationship with Leilani Brown and Giant Steps is hiring, and I've applied and no one has gotten back to me. And then you contact El Michelle and you say, would you be able to put in a word? Here is my error-free, turnkey, professionally polished resume and cover letter and application. And would you mind sending it over? By the way, don't send it to El Michelle and say, I don't know if it's okay. Could you take a look at it? She doesn't have time. She's doing
Right.
it on her phone. And
Exactly.
she's
And you
taking that
best have a
same email,
relationship that's good with me.
right? And say, would you mind forwarding it on and saying something about the way in which we work together, or
Mhm.
that I was in your class, or that we are both TCU alumni and we both studied under this particular
Mhm.
professor, which means that I must have had, a similar experience.
Right.
Or I met her at a conference and this is what it is. And then send it over to me and then follow up
Right.
and keep track along the way.
Mhm.
And I talk about this in your next giant steps of everybody that helped you, because when you land, and you will land, you want to be able to go back and say thank you. Why? Because you want to preserve those relationships.
Right. Absolutely.
Preserve those relationships. In the other book, my third book, Your Next Giant Reset, we talk about it's a career comeback guide, and we talk about what it is to go about a process when you get laid off,
Mhm.
because it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So
Well,
this is,
hello.
I mean, this is focused on,
Part of my
yeah.
story.
So if you wanted to seek a new opportunity, that's available to people. But again, it's high touch, it's relationship, and it's hard,
Yeah.
and it's counterintuitive, and it's uncomfortable, and it's vulnerable.
Yes.
It requires a level of vulnerability and openness. But great things don't often happen alone, and they don't often happen if you don't seek assistance.
That's good. That's good. So many gems. So many gems,
Yeah,
Leilani.
thank
Thank you so much
you.
for being on the show. Can you tell folks how to get their
Anytime.
hands on your book? And if you have any big events coming up that
Absolutely.
they need to know about, this is the time. Share.
Absolutely. Well, they can always find us at giantstepsllc.com. There, they can link to our 3 books. We have 3 books. The first is Your Next Giant Steps, 25 Practical Tips for Job Search Success. It is available on Amazon. And also, they can find From Campus to Career, 25 tips for your first professional year. Our third book is free. It is totally free. It's my gift to the world. Reset Guide. Giant Steps LLC. You can download. It'll only cost you your email because we want to keep in touch with you, and you can download the 4-part framework. You can also find us on YouTube at Giant Steps LLC, where we have our podcast, Giant Steps with Leilani Brown, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'll say yes.
Yay, everybody! Leilani Brown. We are so excited to have you on the show. I hope you come back at some point.
Thank you, El Michelle. You're such a light. I really appreciate it.
Oh, God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Size Communication, LLC.
The Culture Soup Podcast is a registered trademark of No Silos Communications, LLC.